Hello and welcome. My name is Bobby Brooks Wilcox. I'm so glad that you joined us today. I am the author of Reconciled, and today I have another guest for an interview, and I'm so excited about having her. Is for my first guest who's in a different country, and not only is she my friend, but we also work together in our Step Family Mastermind group, and we do other things together. And I'm so glad to have Dr. Sonia Cann-Milland. Did I pronounce that correct? Yay!
Almost. Maybe can, but well done. Oh, there's my good. Well done.
Good. Well, thank you. I'm so excited to have you here with me, Sonia. And I'm so excited to be able to talk to you about my book. You know, I feel very blessed to have had not only you as my friend, but also that you're a professional doctor, and the research that you do with recoupled parents is really fascinating, and I'm excited to hear a little bit more about that. So without further ado, I would like to introduce Dr. Sonia. I'm going to call you Dr. Sonia. Is that okay? And so Sonia, tell us a little bit about you personally, and a little bit about your background, your blended family, because you have a blended family also, and about your profession and what you've been doing and studying for the last 30 years and what you're doing now.
Yeah, first, thank you so much for asking me to come into this interview and to talk about your book. I loved reading it, and I'm really excited to share some of my thoughts and encouragements that I got from it. So thank you so much. And I really believe that so many people, and I will say this at the end, but I'm going to say it at the beginning, so many people that will be blessed and encouraged by what you've shared. So I just want to say that first. Personally, who's Sonia? So I am a biological mother of 26 years, and I am a stepmother of 29 years. Sorry, that's my oldest stepchild. I'm actually stepmom of 15 years, but I have a 29-year-old stepchild. I have a 26-year-old and 24 and 23, and I have biological grandchild on the way. I have another step grandchild. Not that I differentiate actually, because my grandchildren definitely don't differentiate, and I have a 6-year-old granddaughter, and they just see me as, they call me Gaga. And they don't see me any differently, than to their biological grandparents. So they're just blessed to have lots of extra grandparents.
Exactly. I love it. That's great.
So five children all up, and we love them all very much. My former husband, or as you refer to in your book, my husband.
Yeah.
We actually just did a count, because we keep forgetting how long we've been married for. So we just did a count. We're in our 15th year.
Oh, wonderful.
So professionally, I suppose I started out in a similar way that we've shared in our mastermind group, that becoming a step family, I wasn't quite as prepared as I actually believed I was. And so a lot of issues arose and I had no idea how to manage them. A lot of complex, unique issues arose, and both my husband and I weren't really sure how to manage that. And so our couple relationship and step family relationships, step parent, stepchild relationships, we had issues there. And even my children adjusting as well and helping them adjust, all those issues, became overwhelming for me. And so I decided to go and do some research on that. And so that took me on the journey of my doctorate, which I did in education. And so my hope for the future is to continue in education, and really looking at not only working with recoupled parents, but also working with teachers that teach children from step families and help them be more knowledgeable and understanding on step families. And I also want to work with service providers like counsellors, coaches, or any kind of service provider that works with families or works with children from step families. And just they're just clamoring for more information on understanding step families. And so that's where my heart is. Because I think that will really support step families if the wider community understands them a whole lot better and in a light.
Yes, I agree with you. It's that's why we come together as step family experts, so that we can help educate and equip step couples in their step families, right? To have healthier relationships the second time around, as I call it, and how to work with their blended families, because it is challenging as a step family. A step family is not your typical first family. There are so many dynamics and things going back and forth, and it's very frustrating for step couples to know what to do and what's the right thing to do, and are they helping or are they making things worse, right, in their step family. So I'm so grateful for the work that you're doing and bringing forward in Australia, right? And hopefully in not just Australia, but Victoria, right? Australia, and hopefully maybe someday in the States. Never know, right? Never know.
Well, so you're already over here.
Well, because of you, I'm over there now. Yay. So just like, in regards to my book, and thank you so much for reading it. I and thank you for the kind words. In your own words, what part, if any, in the book resonated with you the most?
Wow.
Was there a specific piece that you highlighted or that stuck out at you, or you?
I have a list of notes of things that I thought, wow, this is great. This is really, really important to say. And but if there was something that stood out, that just one thing you're asking for, it's very difficult.
Oh, you can say as many as you want. I'm just asking something in particular that stood out in your mind.
Yes, you. Okay, and let me tell you why. You're the vulnerability that I can see in that book. the fact that you were able to just put yourself on the line out there in such a powerful public forum, and just be so authentic and so real in your story, and so open to embrace where you needed to address the areas in your life where you needed healing, and you needed to recognize your own responsibilities in that. And the fact that you're encouraging people to do that is fantastic. But to read that you did that and to share that with the world just blew me away. So you're one special lady, and that is my I think that's what resonated, is to just be real and true, and speak with integrity, and that's exactly what you did.
Oh, well, thank you, Sonia. I appreciate that. Yeah, my book is a journey for those of you who have not read it yet. Just to give you a little glimpse, it's my story after divorce, and the pain and suffering and everything that, as anyone who's been through divorce with children, go through, more than likely, most all of us, right? And that, like, so much pain that I don't want to feel this pain anymore. How do I feel better? How can I heal from this? And that search for peace, which led me on my journey to a university that taught about spiritual psychology, right? And that's actually where I had my spiritual awakening and my healing and transformation, and everything that I learned from that journey, right, in the university is what some of Sonia is talking about, that I then took and applied it in my own relationships, with my husband, how I found my husband, and my children. We reconciled as well. They were adults then. And so, yeah, in that journey, and little did I know that I was getting married to, my husband now, who's never been married and doesn't have children, and stepping in as a stepdad, right? And like, what does that look like? And then, a few years later, boom, we have ours baby. And so the blended family grows, right? And then all the other beautiful pieces along the way that transpired in that. So yeah, like, being that you've gone to psychology, right, and taken out, what was your experience, Sonia, of the university and spiritual psychology?
Oh, okay. So I'm not a psychologist. I did my doctorate through education. Yeah.
Okay.
Just to clarify that. But I do have a faith, and I think spirituality is very important in the process of healing from trauma, from learning to forgive and understanding what forgiveness means.
Yeah.
So healing in relationships, broken relationships, spirituality is important. And your book is very focused on your spiritual journey in the healing process of the struggles that you experienced through your divorce, and then rebuilding relationships with your husband and your children. And can I just for 1 second speak to those that might be listening that aren't God believers, not so sure about where they sit with their own spirituality, or can I just speak?
Absolutely. Yes.
For 1 second. Please don't let this turn you off reading this book. And the reason is, particularly, this is coming from someone that loves to research. So, you know, that's what I do. Yeah. And so I have done some research since reading your book on spirituality and healing and trauma, and you know, and there's a lot of research out there that has been done by people, some who embrace their own spirituality, some that don't, but are looking into where spirituality fits in healing. And it's really worth having a look. Take a look. If you're unsure, don't judge. Take a look at some of the research, because there is a lot out there that shows that spirituality really does influence
healing
in a really positive way, the healing process. Yeah.
Yes, it does. And to
don't take your word for it. Go and check.
Right. Go do your own research. Exactly. I love that, Sonia. I love that. Yes. And since, I mean, I wrote the book about 10 years ago, published it 5 years ago, and then God finally said, okay, it's time for it to come out now. So, okay, great. What does that look like? And so this all came about with the virtual book tour. And so here it is. But since then, I too have done some more research, and I have found even in trauma with patients of trauma and their healing, that they really recommend to a spiritual, I believe spirituality or faith or religion, I believe is how they reference to it as, and how healing it really is, because it gives you a belief that, you know, and hope in something bigger and better than, you know, what's in front of you or whatever. So yeah, so thank you for that. I appreciate that, Sonia.
No worries.
So what else is there? Is there anything like? Okay.
Yeah. How is it? Okay. So the first thing was your title. I've got it up here. I'm going to bring it down.
She's got the book in the back, as I do.
Yeah, that's right. So I love your title. I love your title. I just yes, sorry. I'm just checking my notes.
Your
here.
notes.
Yeah.
That's so great. So
okay, so yeah, I want to tell you a quick story.
Okay.
So my husband, when I'm a bit long-winded when I have a conversation, he believes, and so one of the things he always says to me, Bobby, is, can you just tell me the outcome, and you know, and then you can tell me the rest of the story. But I want to know the result. Let me know the result. And I looked at your heading, and that story popped into my head, because your heading really reflects the outcome and the result of the book, of the story. You know, the story of divorce, redemption, and blended family united, reconciled, an inspiring journey to hope, faith, and love. And so I really feel like your heading is saying this is the end of the story. I'm letting you know that this was my outcome.
I love it.
I love that. And then we get to open the book and hear how you got there.
Mm.
So I really enjoy your heading.
Oh, thank you. Thank you.
Yeah.
I actually had a vision of the title when I was in the book writing process. It went through a lot of names, a lot of titles, and just, excuse me, just one night I had like this vision as I laid down to go to sleep, reconciled and bold and red. And so, and it just stayed with me, and I'm like, well, then that's what it is.
Yeah.
And yeah, so the whole journey of writing the book, thank you for bringing that forward, because I don't share it too often, but the whole journey was all spirit led. From every time I would sit down to write the book, I would pray and ask for spirit to guide me through the process. And then even after the writing of it, then the process of putting it together and publishing it was another whole piece. Spirit led me to this person to help me with the legal parts of it, and then spirit led me to this person to help me tie some things in together to make it more personable and draw the reader in. And yeah, it was just a really beautiful piece by piece. A lot of time, energy, spirit went into it.
Yes. Yeah. Yes. And it really shows.
Oh, well, thank you. So Sonia, what are 3 words, and you can use more if you want, but
Yeah.
just 3 words that you would describe my book?
Spiritual journey.
Mm.
I would just see it as a spiritual journey that leads to hope and reconciliation.
Mm.
I think that is way too many words.
But I like that, just short, yes, description.
Yeah, and there were some real standouts. Would you like some of my standout thoughts that?
Absolutely.
Okay, yeah. So I just couldn't help it. I was just writing notes and page numbers as I was reading, and so there were some lovely things that I think that you address, and please excuse my notes, but there's too many, and my memory just can't contain them all. I love that that you talk about forgiveness, but you also talk about self-forgiveness.
Mm-hmm.
And so I really enjoyed that sense of releasing yourself from that.
Mm.
I think we can get stuck. We can get focused on our inappropriate behavior or behavior that we feel great shame in. And when we end up in that space, that's where we get stuck. We get stuck in shame.
Mm.
But you're showing us that in forgiving ourselves, we don't have to stay there, and shame doesn't have to have any control over us, and guilt doesn't have to have control over us. Mm-hmm. So I really appreciated that, and I think it's a really important message to get out there.
Right. I mean, how many of us, I don't know about you, but I was never taught about forgiveness. I was raised by my grandmother when I would go and visit her on weekends, that we ask God to forgive us. We don't ask each other to forgive us, or we don't forgive ourselves. So, you know, this brings a whole different healing to, and not just saying, well, you should forgive yourself, but actual steps on how to do it, right?
Yeah, yeah.
It really is healing.
The other thing I love is your chapter on emotional divorce.
Mm.
You know, and just going through the you know, you talk a lot about your grief in that, and through the whole book, you can see, you know, thoughts and feelings, you know, your emotions coming through, where it's like, wow, I thought I dealt with that back there, but it's coming up for me now.
Mm-hmm.
And so, you know, it's really a journey, emotional divorce, isn't it? In a sense,
Mm-hmm.
it's not just, okay, let's just deal with the emotions of my divorce, and I'll move on to the next stage of my journey.
Yeah.
You know, throughout your book, you're finding that you're actually revisiting some
Onions,
emotions.
layers, right?
Yeah,
Layers, the onions.
yeah. So
Yes.
I yeah, that was
And
great.
you know, that's a really good place too, because I know that if I've gone through it, and I've certainly talked to other women who've been divorced and remarried as well, that they find themselves there too.
Yeah,
That just because they remarried doesn't mean that, you know, everything else has gone away. Sometimes they find those things from their past marriage resurface in their current marriage, and they don't know what to do with it, right? And then that can cause problems between partners, right? And if they don't know how to talk about it, and if you personally don't know how to have, if you don't have tools or skills to be able to work through it yourself, and then you bring that into your relationship, right? So I thought those were very important pieces that I know that probably most of us experience. And to address it, okay, it's almost like the you know, we put it in the closet and don't talk about it. I'm like, no, let's open up those closet doors, let's talk about this, girl.
well done. Yeah, yeah, that's great. That's great.
Yeah.
Next thing.
Okay, yes, let's do what, one more.
Wow. Okay. Which one will I pick? Hmm. Yes. Love active listening. Love is about active listening. Yeah. Really important. Really, really beautiful. We have 2 ears and 1 mouth. So we need to use our ears twice as much as our mouth. Yeah.
Yes.
Don't. There was I can't even remember who said this, but it sounded like great wisdom to me, is that when we speak, we're generally talking about stuff that we already know.
Yeah.
Well, when we listen, then we're in a space where we're able to learn and grow. That's where we grow, in the listening. And you show that time and time again in your book, when you took the time to sit down with your children and listen, you know, through all their developmental stages, and through, you know, their emotional journey. You took the time to listen to your former husband, and your husband, and I just, yeah, beautiful.
Yes. That's one of the foundational pieces when I went to that university that I learned the first weekend that I was in school. That weekend is I learned how to listen, because I, for the first time, had someone listen to me without interrupting, without an agenda, just wholeheartedly listen to me. And that was actually one of the skills that we learned. It's called, they call it heart-centered listening in the spiritual psychology. And it's more of really just seeing the loving essence in another human being and letting go of all the other pieces, and just knowing that, there's a divine human being that's sitting in front of you that, deserves to be heard, right? And so it's like shifting your whole paradigm of how to listen to someone.
Yes. Yeah. That. Can I add one more?
Okay,
I know
one
you.
more. You're so wonderful. I love it. Just one more.
Just one
Yes.
more. The chapter on, everyone has to, read the book for this chapter, because, I just couldn't put the book down. I was reading this chapter. And that is it's the one where you go on a cruise.
Blended family cruise.
The blended family cruise. It's an amazing story. And it brings out so many incredible things and things that you learned during that time, and how blessed your family was. But what I gained from it is that, in forgiveness, anything is possible.
Mm-hmm.
And while we probably all won't go on cruises paid by our former husbands, I love that story. And that's not the only healing story, but that is just so way out there. And you even say in your book, what? What, really?
Yeah, that's actually where I got my aha, is on the cruise. I was, you go around and you talk to people on the cruise and you socialize, and, and, oh, I'm from here and I'm here, and oh, I'm here with my family, or I'm here with my wife, it's our anniversary or whatever. And I'm like, oh, I'm here with my ex-husband and his family. And they're like, what? Wait a minute. I can't be in the same room with my ex, let alone be on a family cruise. And that's when the lights went off and I went, oh, I got my aha moment. Yep. This is what I have to write about. And literally, when I went home, I started writing my book.
Wow. So that's really incredible. And last one, I'm sorry, I can't help it. There is one more.
This is great.
That I think is really important for your readers to know. You are not just reading about Bobby's journey. At the end of the chapters, and even sometimes even in the middle of her chapters, she will leave you with something to reflect on in your own life. So it won't, you won't have the exact same experience as Bobby, but using her experience, she takes the lesson from it and just asks you to reflect, to have a think, and to just ponder about whether you resonate with that, and have you had an experience that can relate to that. And so it really is a learning book in that way as well. It's very interactive in that way. So go out and buy.
Fabulous. Aw, thank you so much, Sonia. I really appreciate all your feedback and your details and your personal experience. Thank you so much.
It's my pleasure.
Aw. And is there anything that you would like to add to this interview before we end?
I think I've probably said too much already.
You've said a lot. It's never too much.
Thank you so much for having me.
Thank you. I really appreciate it. And thank you so much it's morning your time, right?
Yes, it is.
And it's evening our time. So thank you so much again for taking the time to read it and for your feedback and for agreeing to come on my Zoom video and to share your insight and feedback.
It is totally my pleasure.